Hi there, this is Pride Weekly. We'll start with Monday. There'll be no charges over a fight involving a non-binary teenager in the US who died the next day. Nex Benedict was beaten unconscious in a school bathroom in Oklahoma last month. It's claimed there'd been bullying linked to the 16-year-old's gender identity. The altercation's been labelled mutual combat by the authorities, who say it doesn't meet the standard of a prosecutable crime. Health officials recently ruled Nex took their own life. Lance Preston's from the Rainbow Youth Project, which has a suicide prevention line. He tells KOCO5 News local LGBTQ+ young people have been greatly affected by this.
In February, we took 1,097 calls from kids in the state of Oklahoma. That was over a 238% increase. We're already seeing crisis calls today of kids stating their lives don't matter, that the schools don't care about them.
A new law in Oklahoma means students can only use school bathrooms matching their birth gender. Owasso High School is being investigated by the US Department of Education. Attempts in Uganda to tighten the rules around surrogacy and IVF would stop queer people having access to them. The snappily titled Human-Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill has been introduced to Parliament. It would limit surrogacy and IVF to people with infertility issues. LGBTQ+ advocates in the country say it's draconian. And an anti-trans demonstration in Australia's turned ugly, much like the bigots protesting. About 100 people showed up outside Parliament House in Melbourne for a gathering by the Women's Action Network, which opposes self-ID. Clashes between them and trans rights activists saw pepper spray used by police, who made 2 arrests. It's Pride Daily for Tuesday. A Ghanaian preacher and gospel singer in the US has been talking about the non-existent LGBT agenda with a stat that's probably not evidence-based. Sonny Badu's concerned the tentacles of homosexuality are spreading far and wide across society. And here it comes. He reckons about 78% of American gospel singers are gay. Definitely not him though. He's a gospel singer from Ghana. Plus, he says cartoons are spreading subtle queer messages, so his kids aren't allowed to watch them. And just for good measure, he also tells Accra FM he can cure gay people.
A young man in my church, this guy's gifted, and I had to just rewind him mentally. One time, I just called him randomly and he stopped straight away. And that's how he started introducing girlfriends to me.
Ghana's currently trying to bring in one of the world's harshest anti-queer laws. Just identifying as LGBTQ+ could get you up to 3 years in prison. There's attempts to restrict queer rights in Georgia. A law has been introduced to Parliament there that would ban transitioning and outlaw adoption by same-sex couples. Also in the crosshairs, gatherings aimed at popularising same-sex family or queer intimate relationships. Politicians in Georgia, which is next to Russia, Turkey and Armenia, say the bill's needed to protect family values. And 2 Dutch darts players have quit the national women's team because of a transgender teammate. Anke Zylstra and Aileen de Graaf are unhappy about the inclusion of Noah Lynn van Leeuwen, even though she absolutely complies with the sport's rules. Zylstra says she's embarrassed a biological man's on the team. Maybe you should be embarrassed about your complete lack of humanity. It's Pride Daily for Wednesday. A teenage boy in Australia was suspended from school for being gay, and just to really put the boot in, staff outed him to his parents. James Elliott Watson says it happened back in 2010 when he was 15. The independent Christian school in Sydney also banned him from being a prefect and tried to convert him. They're thorough, I'll give him that. He shared his story for a report on LGBTQ+ discrimination in faith-based schools and organisations. Equality Australia wants this outlawed, like the country's Prime Minister said he would a few years ago. James has been speaking at Parliament there, and he's not overly impressed with politicians.
It's the whole reason this place is here is to protect Australians, and there are young, vulnerable people in school right now, and they'll feel the fear that I felt and the shame that I felt, and they need to be protected from that, and the law should do so. Why else are we here? Why else is this building here? Do your job.
The report finds LGBTQ+ discriminations endemic in religious schools and organisations across Australia. A football game between the US and Mexico has been suspended twice because of homophobic chanting. Happened at the Nations League final in Texas. Last year's semi between the teams was also halted for the same reason. Some Mexico fans have been directing homophobia at the opposition's goalkeepers for years. And a majority of the UK's top sportswomen aren't comfortable with trans athletes taking part in female competitions. An anonymous survey has been carried out by the BBC, and this is how more than 2/3 of the elite sportswomen who responded say they feel. It also found 67% wouldn't want to speak publicly about this. It's Pride Daily for Thursday. Marriage equality in Thailand's moving forward. Parliament's lower house has passed a bill to give it legal recognition. Still got a few more hoops to jump through, but all being well, Thailand's set to be the first country in Southeast Asia to recognise same-sex unions. Could be made official by the end of the year. There'd also be equality when it comes to adoption and inheritance. And teacher Sang Chai's been speaking to ABC News Australia. She had an unofficial same-sex wedding at Bangkok Pride in 2022.
We just want to live together and we just want to take care of each other, not just only two of us, but our family too.
The bill gets rid of references to women, men, wives and husbands, replacing them with gender-neutral terms. A push to include the word parent alongside mother and father wasn't approved. A court in Yemen sentenced 9 men to death by crucifixion and stoning on sodomy charges. Much of the country in Western Asia is controlled by the Houthis. They're militants who persecute LGBTQ+ people. 23 other men were jailed for up to 10 years, and 3 of these were also sentenced to public flogging. Human Rights Watch describes the charges as dubious. And Sacramento in America is now a transgender sanctuary city. This basically means the council's protecting trans rights and access to gender-affirming care. This is now restricted or banned by 23 US states. It's Pride Daily for Friday, the 10th anniversary of same-sex marriage in England and Wales. You're welcome, Fact fans. Now then, it's not going unnoticed that Easter Sunday coincides this year with International Transgender Day of Visibility, so a church in Canada's celebrating with a drag show in its Sunday service. The Calgary Unitarians want to acknowledge trans and other queer people in the congregation. Drag Me to Church will also act as a protest against plans to limit transgender rights in the local province, Alberta. Reverend Samaya Oakley's from Calgary Unitarians. She tells Global News everyone should feel accepted.
This is a congregation that holds every single life as sacred, and we want people to know that whoever they are and however they identify, they are beautiful and sacred, and they are welcome in this space.
A gender-critical school teacher in the UK has lost his unfair dismissal case. Kevin Lister refused to call a biologically female student by their preferred male name and pronouns, and the tribunal heard he wrote the student's female birth name on a whiteboard in front of the class. The 60-year-old was fired by New College Swindon in 2022 for gross misconduct. It's been ruled he expressed his beliefs in an objectionable manner. And young transgender artists in Ireland can take part in a new competition. It's called Being the Artist I Am. It's looking for work from those aged under 20 that reflects their own identity, their journey so far, and their sense of pride. The competition's to celebrate trans artist Jordan Howe, who took her own life 10 years ago. Entries open on Sunday, and the winning work goes on public display. I'm Kev McGrath. Happy Easter! See you Monday.